The radio crackled through the humid Amazon night at 12:17 a.m. on March 16th. Lieutenant Maria Fernandez of the Brazilian Navy leaned closer to the equipment, recognizing the particular quality of fear in the transmission. Rafael Mendoza's voice carried the weight of exhaustion and terror. The coordinates he transmitted placed them 80 kilometers upstream from Manaus, deep within a tributary system. 800 miles away in Sao Paulo, Dr. Miguel Santos answered a call that would mark the beginning of a nightmare. A Navy officer explained that his wife, Elena, botanist, researcher, mother of Isabella and Carlos, had disappeared somewhere in the vast rainforest. Elena's dedication to her research had always carried inherent risks. Her specialized study of Amazonian plants and their potential applications in treating Alzheimer's disease required travel to remote regions where rescue operations could take days to organize. This particular expedition had carried an unusual quality that concerned even Elena's closest colleagues. Dr. Amanda Silva later described feeling uneasy about the secretive nature of this journey. Elena had shared minimal details, emphasizing the need for unusual caution. The careful researcher who typically documented every aspect of her expeditions had deliberately obscured her trail. Her departure from standard safety protocols indicated awareness of human threats that required serious preparation. As dawn approached, military helicopters prepared for departure toward the coordinates Rafael had provided. Search and rescue specialists understood the critical mathematics of Amazon survival. Each hour reduced the probability of successful recovery. The forest that had nurtured Elena's groundbreaking research now held her somewhere within its vast embrace. Brazilian Naval Command coordinated with civilian authorities, indigenous guides, and international partners, marshaling resources for the operation. Family members in Sao Paulo faced the particular agony of waiting while others searched. The Amazon had given Elena the plants that might one day heal minds ravaged by disease. Now her family could only hope the forest would return their most precious gift, Elena herself. 3 days before the desperate radio call that would summon rescue helicopters, morning mist hung low over the weathered docks at Manacapuru like a gentle curtain. Rafael Mendoza checked his aluminum boat with practiced efficiency, securing supplies that distinguished competent guides from those whose overconfidence proved fatal. Beside him stood Ina Tuxa, their indigenous guide, whose quiet alertness reflected generations of wisdom about reading the forest's subtle signals. Elena had assembled her team thoughtfully, selecting Rafael for his reputation as a reliable navigator. Ina's presence acknowledged that indigenous knowledge remained irreplaceable for understanding plants and terrain in ways university training couldn't provide. Their careful preparations reflected Elena's methodical approach to research expeditions. An unexpected visitor approached as they completed their final preparations. Dr. Carlos Mendez introduced himself as a pharmaceutical consultant, passing through the region on unspecified business. His questions about Elena's research carried an intensity that seemed disproportionate to casual professional curiosity. Elena noticed meaningful glances exchanged between Rafael and this unexpected visitor. The interaction lasted only minutes, but left lingering discomfort that would prove prophetic. Dr. Mendez concluded his questions abruptly before boarding another boat heading downstream toward Manaus. Their journey proceeded through narrowing channels, as the forest canopy gradually closed overhead. Ina shared traditional stories about the convergence point, a sacred location where 3 tributaries met, and plants grew with unusual healing properties. By nightfall, they established camp on a small island, offering security from mainland predators. Standard safety protocols emphasized defensive positioning, though Elena's unease stemmed from human rather than wildlife concerns. Her growing apprehension focused on the unusual attention her expedition had attracted. During evening preparations, Elena discovered her satellite communicator had been moved from its usual position. The device remained functional, but someone had clearly handled it during their travels. This discovery sharpened her growing sense that this expedition carried unexpected risks. In her field journal that evening, Elena wrote words that would later provide crucial insight. "Something feels wrong about this trip. can't shake the feeling we're being watched or followed. Her instincts had registered danger signals that her rational mind was still processing. Upstream, concealed by forest shadows and falling rain, another boat waited with patient predatory attention. Dr. Carlos Mendez lifted binoculars to his eyes, watching their camp through tropical rainfall. His presence confirmed Elena's instincts about dangers extending far beyond the Amazon's natural hazards. Dawn revealed Elena's remarkable scientific discovery: 3 plant species previously unknown to formal botanical classification. These findings showed promising compounds with potential applications for treating cognitive decline and neurological conditions. Her methodical documentation recorded not just species identification, but environmental factors that would prove crucial for future research. The magnitude of these discoveries should have brought pure professional joy to Elena. She understood these species might hold keys to treating Alzheimer's disease, potentially transforming millions of lives worldwide. Yet her excitement remained tempered by growing unease about the human dynamics surrounding this expedition. Raphael showed unusual interest in her notebooks and specimen collection rather than his typical navigation duties. His questions about her documentation methods seemed to carry purposes beyond ensuring expedition success. Meanwhile, Ina repeatedly scanned the forest perimeter with the alertness of someone expecting unwelcome visitors. During their midday meal, Ina shared troubling information that transformed Elena's suspicions into focused concern. She had encountered Dr. Carlos Mendez before, at specific locations where he had made detailed inquiries about plant sites and traditional gathering practices. His questions suggested familiarity with Elena's research objectives beyond coincidental professional interest. This revelation confirmed Elena's instinct that their morning encounter had been deliberately planned. Mendez had positioned himself specifically to interact with her expedition, suggesting surveillance that indicated serious commercial intent regarding her discoveries. The implications weighed heavily on Elena as she considered how to protect her work. That afternoon, Elena discovered her GPS device had been accessed by someone else during their journey. Coordinate data had been reviewed and copied without her knowledge or permission. This violation represented more than a simple privacy breach. It suggested systematic efforts to track her movements in research locations. As evening approached, heavy rain created both opportunity and additional danger for the expedition. Elena wanted to make a night expedition to observe a rare species that bloomed only under full moon conditions. This discovery could provide crucial insights into plant behavior and compound concentration patterns essential to her research. Raphael resisted her proposal with safety arguments that seemed disproportionate to someone of his experience. His objections felt more like attempts to control her movement than genuine concern for expedition safety. Elena couldn't yet understand why her guide might want to limit her research activities. Unknown to Elena and her team, their camp remained under observation from concealed positions across the water. Dr. Carlos Mendez maintained surveillance through sophisticated equipment that allowed detailed monitoring despite the rain and darkness. His presence confirmed the commercial value of Elena's discoveries had attracted dangerous attention. In her journal that evening, Elena wrote with growing clarity about her concerns. Raphael's behavior is increasingly suspicious. Too interested in my work, not interested enough in basic guide responsibilities. Her scientific training now served defensive purposes she had never anticipated needing in her decades of Amazon research. Elena carefully distributed her most important research materials across multiple hiding places. This precaution ensured that even if someone accessed part of her work, the complete picture would remain protected. Her intuition about potential threats had transformed from vague unease into specific protective actions. The forest held its breath around their camp, while upstream, patient predators prepared for actions that would transform Elena's greatest discoveries. What had begun as scientific research was becoming a deadly game of survival in the world's most unforgiving natural environment, with stakes far beyond personal safety. Federal Police Agent Marcos Silva approached Elena's case with careful attention to detail, a hallmark of his successful career in Brazil's challenging environments. His first step revealed troubling discrepancies that would change everything about the investigation. Elena's final satellite transmission had originated from deep forest coordinates, nowhere near the river location where Raphael claimed she had disappeared. This geographical contradiction suggested deliberate deception rather than tragic accident. The focus shifted from rescue operation to potential criminal case with this single discovery. At the abandoned campsite, Silva observed signs of methodical evidence removal rather than hasty departure. Personal belongings remained untouched, but research notebooks, specimen containers, and documentation equipment had vanished completely. Tracker Zhao Xingu brought invaluable expertise to the investigation, reading forest signs with remarkable precision. His examination revealed footprints from an unknown person who had moved through the camp with purpose and familiarity. These weren't the panicked movements typical of emergency situations, but calculated actions with clear intent. Tree markings provided additional evidence of covert human presence beyond Elena's documented team. Tool cuts in bark showed deliberate navigation markers, suggesting systematic observation rather than random criminal opportunity. Local witness interviews gradually painted a picture of suspicious activity around the convergence point. Multiple reports described unfamiliar boats operating in the area, with occupants asking specific questions about research activities. Their unusual interest in indigenous plant knowledge seemed connected to Elena's disappearance in troubling ways. Dr. Carlos Mendez emerged as a central figure through these careful investigations. Financial records revealed connections to pharmaceutical companies with questionable acquisition practices. His presence in the region appeared deliberately coordinated with Elena's expedition rather than coincidental as he had claimed. Ina's detailed testimony provided crucial insights into the expedition's final days. She described witnessing Raphael photographing Elena's research notes when the scientist was occupied with specimen collection. This behavior violated basic professional trust and suggested coordination with external interests seeking unauthorized access to Elena's discoveries. More concerning still, Ina had observed Dr. Mendez in the forest on multiple occasions, conducting what appeared to be surveillance. His behavior suggested predatory patience, watching and waiting for optimal opportunities to act against Elena's expedition. The timeline Ina provided showed growing tension throughout the expedition's final days. Elena had become increasingly protective of her research materials, while Raphael showed nervous behavior that seemed connected to external pressures. On March 15th, Elena had asked Ina to guide her to sacred sites where traditional healers gathered particularly powerful medicinal plants. Ina had participated in the blessing ceremony but returned home before Elena's final research activities. She carried the weight of guilt about leaving Elena during those crucial final hours. Silva recognized a pattern of systematic targeting rather than random violence or accident. Elena's groundbreaking discoveries had attracted attention from those willing to use extreme methods for potential pharmaceutical profits. The investigation revealed a sophisticated operation extending beyond simple theft. Elena had been systematically isolated from support systems, her communications monitored, and her research activities tracked by professionals. The commercial value of her work had made her vulnerable in ways she couldn't have anticipated. As Silva compiled evidence for formal charges, he understood Elena's disappearance represented more than individual tragedy. Her case illuminated dangerous intersections between legitimate research, commercial exploitation, and criminal activity that threatened other scientists working in remote locations. The hunt for Elena had become a broader investigation into networks that preyed on vulnerable researchers. Their isolation made them attractive targets for those willing to steal knowledge rather than develop it through legitimate scientific processes. The forest had kept Elena's secrets, but Silva was determined to uncover truths that might protect others from similar fates. Raphael's confession emerged slowly in the sparse interview room. Each admission weighted with choices made under desperate circumstances. He appeared diminished by weeks of carrying secrets that had grown heavier since Elena's disappearance. The truth he revealed would reshape the entire investigation. Personal tragedy had made Raphael vulnerable to temptation few parents could easily resist. His 8-year-old daughter, Sophia, suffered from a rare kidney condition requiring expensive treatment unavailable through Brazil's public healthcare system. The financial burden threatened to bankrupt his family, while his child's life hung in the balance. Dr. Carlos Mendes had approached Raphael months earlier with an offer that seemed like salvation. The initial payment would cover Sophia's immediate medical needs in exchange for copying Elena's research notes and sharing collection coordinates. What began as a simple betrayal of professional trust evolved into something far more dangerous than Raphael had anticipated. Elena discovered Raphael photographing her notebooks during what should have been a routine evening in camp. Rather than immediate confrontation, she assessed the situation with the scientific rationality that characterized her approach to complex problems. Her response demonstrated both courage and strategic thinking under extreme pressure. Elena systematically protected her most valuable research by destroying certain materials while hiding others in locations only she knew. Her escape into the forest reflected desperate calculation rather than panicked flight. She understood her discoveries represented potential breakthrough treatments too valuable to surrender to those prioritizing profit over patient access. Raphael followed Elena into the forest, driven by genuine concern despite his earlier betrayal. Meanwhile, Mendes pursued with GPS tracking and ruthless efficiency, his commercial interests superseding any consideration for scientific ethics. The chase intensified through increasingly difficult terrain as darkness fell. Elena pushed toward limestone cave systems, where she hoped to find cellular reception for transmitting her research data to trusted colleagues. Her route demonstrated intimate knowledge of the forest gained through years of dedicated fieldwork. The rain-slicked terrain complicated her escape as night approached. At the cave entrance, confrontation became inevitable as paths converged in the darkness. Elena refused Mendes' demands to surrender her research materials. Understanding compliance would likely end in tragedy. The struggle that followed reflected fundamental conflicts between scientific integrity and commercial exploitation. During their violent encounter, Mendes lost footing on rain-slicked rocks and fell into darkness. Elena, injured in the struggle, dragged herself deeper into the cave system where limestone formations provided shelter from remaining threats. Her botanical knowledge proved crucial for treating wounds and finding water in the cave environment. 18 days of cave survival tested every aspect of Elena's scientific training and personal resilience. Nights brought hallucinations induced by pain and isolation, while days required vigilance against potential dangers. The constant uncertainty added psychological pressure to physical challenges of surviving in an environment designed for bats rather than humans. Elena's scientific mind remained active despite her circumstances, documenting her experience even while fighting for survival. Her commitment to research persisted through conditions that would have broken less dedicated individuals. Each entry in her makeshift journal reflected both professional dedication and human determination to survive. Agent Silva completed Raphael's interview with renewed urgency in the search operation. Elena's ordeal illuminated dangers facing researchers whose work attracts those willing to use violence to acquire valuable knowledge. The race to find her continued with time working against even her remarkable resilience and scientific expertise. April 2nd arrived with a clear morning that kindled hope alongside careful preparation. The rescue team approached coordinates that had remained hidden in Raphael's conscience for weeks. Their movements carried the weight of knowing that 18 days in isolation could devastate even the strongest individual. Captain Helena Morales led technical rescue specialists equipped for cave operations in tropical environments. Her team understood that every minute mattered when extracting someone from conditions that challenged survival at its most basic level. Their approach balanced urgency with the caution needed in such delicate operations. The first signs lifted spirits. Elena's voice responded weakly but clearly to rescue calls echoing through limestone chambers. "Protect the specimens" were her first words, showing that even extreme circumstances hadn't dimmed her commitment to life-changing research. Her scientific training had sustained her through an ordeal that might have overcome someone less resourceful. Medical evaluation revealed the physical toll of Elena's experience: significant weight loss, infected wounds, and dehydration requiring immediate intervention. Yet her mental clarity remained remarkably intact, despite the isolation and trauma she had endured. Her detailed accounts would later prove crucial for legal proceedings against those responsible. The discovery of Dr. Carlos Mendez's body confirmed Rafael's account while eliminating one immediate threat to Elena's safety. Agent Silva recognized, however, that Mendez had operated within networks extending beyond individual criminal action. The case would require continued vigilance to ensure Elena's protection and her valuable research. Rafael faced charges for intellectual property theft and conspiracy in the following weeks. His cooperation with authorities and the desperate circumstances that had made him vulnerable resulted in reduced sentencing. Sophia received the medical treatment she needed through victim compensation funds rather than proceeds from criminal activity. The investigation into pharmaceutical connections revealed systematic efforts to acquire promising research through questionable methods. Regulatory authorities launched reviews of industry practices regarding research acquisition and intellectual property protection. Elena's case had exposed vulnerabilities affecting researchers worldwide. Elena's decision to limit access to her most sensitive discoveries reflected both personal trauma and professional judgment. Working with indigenous partner Ina Tuxa, she participated in blessing ceremonies that returned some specimens to forest protection. This collaboration ensured beneficial compounds could be developed through ethical partnerships rather than exploitation. The Elena Santos Center for Amazonian Studies emerged from collaboration between Brazilian institutions and indigenous communities. The center established protocols ensuring research proceeded with community consent and shared benefits. Its mission honored both scientific advancement and respect for traditional knowledge systems. Elena's final journal entries, written during her cave ordeal, revealed profound insights about her experience. Some gifts from the forest can heal the world, if they are kept from those who would turn them into weapons, she wrote. Science without ethics becomes predation. 1 year after her rescue, Elena stood before the completed research center alongside family and colleagues. Her children, Isabella and Carlos, understood their mother's dedication to research that served humanity, rather than enriching those who would exploit knowledge. The celebration marked not just personal survival, but a new approach to scientific collaboration. The Amazon continues holding countless secrets within its vast embrace. Elena's experience created new protections for researchers and communities working to unlock nature's healing potential. Her survival represents more than individual triumph. It demonstrates the power of scientific integrity combined with human resilience in the face of extraordinary challenges.